As one of the characters said in this show, damn, he's cool. I'm speaking, of course, about Dante from Devil May Cry. I have never played those games, but I do know the character. I recognize him. I've seen plenty of people cosplaying as him. I always thought he had a cool look. It's the white hair, the red trench coat. He's just awesome, okay? And I don't even have to know anything about him to know he looks awesome. So when I heard that there was a new show coming out on Netflix, Devil May Cry, I was very interested, and I just finished watching the screener for it. It's 8 episodes long, approximately 30 minutes per episode, so it's a pretty quick watch. I wanted to get it done before I go out of town in a couple days to go to Planet Comic-Con. I managed to do that, and now I want to talk about it a little bit with you guys. I'm going to assume that fans of the game will probably enjoy it. From what I understand, it seems like it's taking portions from the third game. I don't know what elements from the first or second game it's taking, if any at all. Those who are familiar with the game will probably recognize some of the storylines. There's also probably some storyline elements that are completely made up for this show. There is a cast of recognizable voice actors. I don't want to say original Dante, but the guy that was known for doing Dante the most or the longest or whatever, he is not doing the voice this time. Johnny Yong Bosch is voicing Dante in this show, and I'm familiar with his work. I've been to some of his panels at different cons. He's a really, really funny guy. If you ever have a chance to go to any of his panels, please do so. He's just a joy to listen to. But I thought he did pretty good in here because I didn't really have much exposure to the other guy. There are some other people that I didn't start to recognize who they were until almost the end of the show. The main character, or one of the main characters, Mary, was played by Scout Taylor Compton, which for whatever reason I didn't notice her name in the credits, and there she was. And then there is another character, the character of the vice president, and I was thinking, wow, his voice sounds really familiar. Who the heck is he? So I paid attention to the credits at the end of the first episode, and I noticed that it was Kevin Conroy, you guys. And that never even entered my brain because for some reason I just didn't even put it together that this could have been something he worked on a while back. However, I do not think that this was something he was able to finish because by the last episode I did see there was another name underneath his as a credit for the character, so he probably passed while he was working on this. So it's kind of, it's a little bittersweet to watch this and hear his voice. And he's got that typical Kevin Conroy Batman voice, but he's playing a completely different character in here. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. The basic setup of the show is that there's demon activity going on. There is a group that fights demons, and meanwhile you've got Dante running along doing these different odd sort of jobs for money, like mercenary type jobs for money. He's got this guy that hires him a lot. His name is Enzo. I have no idea if that guy is part of the game, but Enzo's kind of like this scummy little completely untrustworthy guy that will stab him in the back, but he's also in some odd ways likable, just the way his character is played. So Dante gets caught up in the demon stuff that's going on. And the thing that's interesting is that in this particular iteration of the show, he apparently does not know about his background yet. So that's why, from what I understand, there's elements of the third game in here, which based on my limited knowledge of these games is like a prequel story. So you got that set up for this particular storyline. There's a character named White Rabbit who's got these plans for the doorway between the realm of hell and the realm of earth, and he's got his reasons. Now, there was a lot I liked about this show. One was just the storyline. I found it really interesting, and for the most part, I didn't really have too many issues with some of the writing. There were some things that kind of got under my skin a little bit because it didn't really track, but in general, I liked how it was put together. I liked the antagonist in here, the main antagonist, the White Rabbit. It was something that I found very, very interesting about him in that he was a nuanced character and you understood his motivations. You could see the wrongness of what he was doing and what he was espousing, but at the same time, you could completely understand his motivations for what he did. And there was an episode, one particular episode, it was episode 6. That entire episode pretty much tells the backstory of the White Rabbit and also the character of Mary and the different things that happen in their life leading up to the point that they are in the show. And something that was very fascinating about that, the way that episode was done, it's the shortest one. It's only like 22 minutes long. But I started to notice that almost the entire story of this episode was told without any dialogue. There's maybe 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, if I remember correctly, and that first one doesn't even happen until 16 minutes into the episode. That was a standout episode for me because it was touching and because it gave the character of the White Rabbit a lot of depth, and you start to feel a bit of empathy for him in his situation, and also for the character of Mary, who was largely unlikable to me because she was just one of those, I don't know. I understood her. I got why she was the way that she was, but she was extremely close-minded about things up to a certain point. She has an evolution in her character, which I did appreciate. I did like that there is an arc that most of the main characters, the White Rabbit, Mary, and Dante have. Some of the other characters, like the background characters, not so much of an arc because that's not what it's about. But I thought that their character journey was handled pretty well. There was some humorous dialogue in here, some funny moments that happened. Because I don't know a ton about Dante, only his look, I didn't realize how quirky and funny he was, and the stuff that he would say when he was fighting with people. I don't know. Some of the lines elicited a chuckle from me. And then there was one time where he's fighting with a group of people, and right before he beats their ass or kills them or whatever, I can't remember what happened, but right before a particular moment, one of the guys said, "Damn, he's cool." I don't know. I thought that was funny. The episodes, for the most part, flow really well, and the voice acting is good. I've already touched on the people that did the voices, but I especially like the voice acting for the character of the White Rabbit, and I looked him up. His name is Hoon Lee. I don't know. I've probably heard him in stuff before, but his work stood out to me in here. Also, I have a question for fans of the games. Is Devil May Cry in the same universe as Resident Evil? Because there is a reference to Raccoon City in here, and I didn't know if that was just kind of like an Easter egg because there's some connection, or if it was just kind of thrown in there to be funny. I don't know. Also, another thing that I did want to mention before I start to head into the cons was the animation. I thought the animation was gorgeous in here. I loved it. It looks very anime-ish, but I don't think it's a Japanese production, unless it's some sort of joint production that was put together because the primary language is in English. So I don't know. I haven't dug into the background of all of that. All right, some of the issues I had, just some very minor stuff. Nothing that really detracted from my enjoyment. Number one, there was a ton of shooting and didn't seem like half the time the bullets that were being shot did anything, even though they were bullets that were supposed to. So either they weren't as effective as they should be, or the people shooting were terrible shots. Minor, I know that. There is another situation that happens, which was written terribly. There is a character who decides he's going to try to attack a demon with a keyboard, knowing full well what it was he was trying to attack. A keyboard? Really? I mean, I guess if you think about the character that did this, maybe it would make sense, but still, I felt like that was kind of a lame scene. Anyway, another minor thing though, there's also another couple of situations that stood out to me as being not super solid when it came to the writing. One was there is a character that is brought along to a location. There was no reason for this character to have been brought along, but there's something that happens to this character later on that's a pretty pivotal or a pretty dramatic moment. And I'm thinking, well, this wouldn't have happened if his character hadn't been brought along. And first of all, it didn't make any sense for the character to even be there. So for purposes of a particular thing to happen in the plot, the character had to be brought there, even though it made no sense. So that was a little bit eyeball roll inducing for me. And then there is a scene where a character has died in the middle of a demon fight. And the demon that is fighting with one of the characters characters just magically pauses and stops the fighting while this character they're fighting with can hold the body of the person who's dying. Like, why? There was no reason for obviously for dramatic purposes, but no reason at all for something like that to happen. The fight would have continued, should have continued, with no consideration at all on the part of the baddie that this other person was dying, because they've got a goal in mind, and just standing there and watching patiently while the person mourns a friend being taken down did not make any sense at all. That just didn't work too well for me. All of those issues are pretty minor, honestly, in comparison to my overall enjoyment of this show, which I had a lot of enjoyment while I was watching it. I looked forward to watching an episode every single time. It does set up the possibility for a sequel, though I have not heard yet if there is going to be a sequel, but I really hope there will be, because I want to see more of the story, especially because they kind of left it on a bit of a cliffhanger. I don't want to make you guys think that it's this very, very dramatic cliffhanger that happens. Some things are wrapped up, but there are pathways opened up within the storyline that mean other stuff is going to be happening. And so the whole story itself is not completely closed up. I really hope that this can return. I hope it does well. I hope people enjoy it. I hope especially fans of the game enjoy it. If you guys have played the games, I'm really curious to hear how you think this compares to that. Like I said, I have not seen the other anime that they apparently had, but now I would really like to watch it and just see how it compares. I don't know anything about it. I just know that it exists. Something I decided to add to this review was that last night I started watching the original Devil May Cry anime. I got one episode in, but it was enough to just kind of give me a feeling for the differences between character of Dante in the Netflix anime versus the one from the anime back in 2007, which that one had 12 episodes. In the 2007 anime, the character of Dante was a bit more cool, more self-assured, not as lighthearted or comedic as he came across in the Netflix version. He's pretty self-assured in the Netflix version, but he's also a bit more, I almost want to say lighthearted, but he's just a bit more quippy and he's a bit more joking than he is in the 2007 anime, at least in the first episode. I don't know if those differences will continue as I proceed through the original anime, but it was something that stood out to me for sure. Not complaining, I'm just noticing differences. So if there's any more that you guys might pick up on, let me know in the comments below. Something else I've noticed about the 2007 anime compared to the Netflix one is that, generally speaking, so far I'm about halfway through, but generally speaking, the episodes are standalone, whereas in the Netflix version, there is a story arc that continues throughout the episodes until it comes to its conclusion at the last one. So that was another thing I wanted to mention about the difference between the two. Okay, back to the video. Also, another question I had. I'm not sure what time frame this is supposed to take place in, because I thought I saw the Twin Towers in the landscape of the city. So maybe it takes place in the late 90s, very early 2000s, before 9/11. No clue. Don't know if that's going to be anything that happens at all in the storyline, but I'd be curious to find out if there's another season that happens, and maybe there will be. I can't think of anything else much to say about it, just to underscore my appreciation for the overall storyline. I do like that there were these nuanced situations that you had with the good guys and the bad guys, and you could see that there was a lot of gray when it came to each one of them, because it didn't seem like there was anyone that was all bad and all good, or for most of the characters anyway. That to me is something that I can appreciate most of the time, and in the case of this show, I definitely did. So I think that's about all I have to say for now about Devil May Cry. If you guys get a chance to watch it, let me know your thoughts, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.